Welcome to the SANE Show. Get ready to eat more and exercise less to burn a whole lot of fat and radically improve your health. Hey everybody, Jonathan Bailor back with another SANE Show, and really excited about today's show because we have two real specific and interesting experts with us today. I wanted to bring them on the show because if you're a longtime listener to the show, you know that the biggest positive transformation I've experienced over the past 6 months has to do with my shoulders and back. I was having excruciating pain to the point where I was taking really high dose ibuprofen. So 800 milligrams of ibuprofen 3 to 4 times a day, which is obviously horrible for you, to just manage the pain so I could work. And then I said, I've tried everything else, so I'm going to try standing at my desk. And I thought it was dumb, right? I was just like, this is stupid. It's not going to work. It's a fad. And you can still see even today, I have a bunch of books stacked up on my desk. I don't have an official standing desk, but it has been completely transformational for me. It has eliminated all of my pain. And I wanted to learn a bit more about how that's even possible. So I wanted to bring some experts on the show to explain that. And those experts are wonderful doctors of physical therapy. They're spine specialists, and they're just good folks. Chad Walding and Brenda Walding, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, John. It's good to be here.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining me today. And I know you guys have spent years and years and years basically understanding why my pain went away almost miraculously. And I'm hoping you could just unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we do is we see people who have pain that you were having in their back and their shoulders and their neck. We see a lot of herniated disc, bulging disc. And, these people, they don't come to us because they got in some traumatic accident. It's not because they got hit by a football player or something like that. It's just that they sit all day. That's like 95, I'd say almost 98% of the people that we see. It's because of chronic sitting, and it's these poor positions that we're placing ourselves in. And we're naturally, as humans, designed to be upright. Our shoulders are supposed to be back, our core is supposed to be engaged, we're supposed to have these nice strong gluteal muscles, and our ankles are supposed to be mobile. But we live in a culture that from day one put us in chairs, and we started molding our bodies to these kind of flexion-based positions. You can go to the elderly homes and really see an exaggeration of this, where the spine is sort of in that C-shaped position, and you'll see heads that are relatively very protruded forward relative to the body, and shoulders that internally rotate, and hips that kind of get compromised in some way. The pelvis will tilt forward or tilt backwards, but everything gets sort of shut off, and certain muscles get tight, certain muscles get weak, and then we go moving about that way. And it's kind of like driving down the road with your tires not aligned. Everything's going to start wearing and tearing very quickly. So when you go from that sitting position and you stand up, you're moving in the right direction because you're no longer forcing your spine to be in that C-shaped position where the rest of the body starts to have pain.
And is this, so Chad and Brenda, clearly we have not just started sitting. So I would imagine that some level of sitting it's not as if we should fear sitting. At what point does it become, should we be concerned about the amount of sitting we're doing?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of research that's come out lately, really bringing awareness to the negative consequences of chronic sitting. And so when we talk about sitting being a problem, it's when we're sitting 6 to 8 hours a day, day after day after day. And so, as physical therapists, we've always seen and realized that, chronic sitting is increasing risk of acute and chronic pain, loss of functional mobility. But what the most recent research lately is showing that it's also connected to the development of chronic disease conditions such as obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer, as well as research studies showing poor postures as negatively impacting our emotions, behaviors, and hormone levels. So there's a whole slew of negative consequences associated with this 6 to 8 hours of chronic sitting day after day.
It's really helpful to understand that threshold. So 6 to 8 hours per day. So we shouldn't necessarily say it's family movie night. Throw the couch away.
No.
You have to stand up and watch the movie. It's 6 to 8 hours a day.
Right. We have to be reasonable. And like, a standing desk is definitely moving in the right direction. We don't want to tell everybody they have to get a standing desk. So we have more general guidelines, get up and move about, if you're working, every 45 minutes, and move for a period of 2 to 4 minutes. And that prevents stagnation, because that's really the issue here, is that stagnation, not moving, the blood flow, the contraction, the muscles, everything moving around internally. That's what's creating an environment for all those chronic diseases to set in. And then you have to take into mind adaptation, the position that their body is getting molded into. And if you move every 45 minutes for a period of 2 to 4 minutes, you can do a lot of things to unglue those negative effects.
So it sounds like, if I understand correctly, we don't have to, although I personally would recommend, if you can, working at a standing desk at least some of the day, but it sounds like we don't have to do that. We could take these movement breaks once an hour, for lack of better terms, just to get the blood flowing, just to keep our body actually in a not a static state.
Yes, and what we want to, what we're talking about is that, even more so, standing desk is a good option, but even subtly, you're still, that head is still migrating forward. The shoulders are still coming forward a bit as you reach forward and you're typing on your computer. And so what we're trying to bring awareness to is this issue of adaptation that Chad briefly mentioned. And adaptation is just, in this particular scenario, is, certain muscles, when we are in these positions, sustained positions, whether it be sitting for long periods of time or even standing for long periods of time at a desk, there's certain muscles that are going to get weak and elongated, and certain muscles that are going to get tighter, certain joints that are going to get restricted. So when we're moving for, every 45 minutes for that 2 to 4 minute interval, we recommend that people are doing specific movements, so specific intentional movements to combat the negative effects, that the musculoskeletal effects that occur from chronic sitting in those positions. So there's certain things that we know, from head to toe, that are getting tight or weak, and then there's certain exercises that can be done to negate that. So that instead of just standing's great, getting up and walking's great, but there's also some key things that you can do to prevent the negative consequences long term.
Well, now you got me all excited. Now we got to understand what is this magic movement that you speak of?
Well, I mean, there's multiple involved, and that's kind of what, Chad and I will be talking about in our upcoming book, The SANE Solution. But, we have over 40 different movements that we are wanting to teach people. There's certain things, just understanding and becoming aware of what the patterns and what the habits are and what muscles that you need to address, and knowing the movements to counteract that is what is necessary for us to tackle this problem in the full capacity that it needs to be tackled in.
Well, certainly we don't have time to dig into all 40 of those movements or to cover your entire book, which I personally am very excited to check out. But can we give maybe a little teaser, a little sample, a little taste to the audience? So 3 things that if you've got some neck or some upper back or some lower back pain and you're sitting a lot today, try these 3 things.
Okay, so we'll start out with something with the spine. Like I said, the thoracic spine is really the area that if you focus on that, it's the one thing that makes everything else in terms of making your mobility better much easier and oftentimes unnecessary. So when I say thoracic spine, I'm talking about the middle of the back. That's the base of the neck going all the way down to the kind of the top of the low back where you see that curve coming back in. So here's an easy thing you can do. This is a thoracic extension stretch. So in the seated position or the standing position, you can take your hands and put them behind your head. And then now take your elbows forward and point them forward. And then before you do anything, squeeze your glutes and squeeze your stomach. If you're standing, you'll have to squeeze your glutes. If you're sitting, you can just think about squeezing your stomach. But then take your elbows to the ceiling and extend back as much as you can. You can actively retract back as far as you can. And what that does is you're bending your spine the opposite direction than it's typically been doing its entire life. When we're texting on our phones, typing on the computer, we're always bending forward. We want to do some things to bend it back in order to regain that mobility that it's naturally designed to have. When you do that, everything else is automatically going to be in a better position. The neck, the shoulders, you'll have less stress. you'll be able to put your pelvis in a better position. So that's a very simple thing right there.
So Chad, before we move on to number 2, just a quick question, because I'm trying to do this in the studio right now. Yeah, are my fingers interlocked behind my head?
Yes.
Okay, and
yes.
am I pulling on my head? What kind of force am I exerting on the back of my head?
No.
None.
Yeah, you're not pulling. You're just putting them there. Another thing, if some people have shoulder issues, they can just put the palm of their hands on top of their head. The key here is to point the elbows forward, because what that does is it clears the scapula away, or the shoulder blades away from the rib cage, and allows you to extend back. So you don't want to pull down. It's more just to think about looking up and try to get your chest and face pointed towards the ceiling as much as you can.
I like that. I appreciate that clarification, because I can't tell you how many times you see folks that are doing old school classic sit-ups, and they've got the hands behind their head, and it looks like they're going to rip their head off. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So we don't want to do that here either.
No pulling on the neck. It's just resting your hands back. But you're mostly thinking about looking up and trying to get the tip of your nose pointing straight up to the ceiling. And it's actually that's how we measure. It's how we kind of look and see how much thoracic extension mobility someone has, and see how far they can get their nose up, if they can get it all the way pointed up towards the ceiling. And most times, some people can move only like an inch. They're so stuck, especially you can see older people. They basically become stuck in that flexed position. So it's a good thing to be doing every single day, multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm. And since you mentioned sit-ups, we'll go into something that you can do to strengthen your core. So it's a good thing you brought that up, because people are always putting their spines in a C-shaped position. And conventionally, when we work out, like when we go to the gym and we do sit-ups, or we hop on the elliptical, or we hop on the bike, we tend to work out in positions that still have us in that flexion C-shaped position. So it makes things worse over time. It's like we're trying to mold our bodies in positions that still they're not designed for. So there are better ways to strengthen the midline. And really it's about activating the midline. So you can do what I call a hard style plank. So you can get on the floor and then go ahead and prop up on your elbows, lift your hips up off the floor, have your feet together. And this is where you can make it really intense. So think about squeezing your legs straight as hard as you can. Think about bringing your kneecaps up towards your hips, and then squeeze your glutes as hard as you can. And now bring your belly button towards your spine and contract that as hard as you can. And the next step is to think about bringing your elbows towards your feet. So you're going to pull into the ground and bring them towards your feet. And you're going to feel your entire body just contracting. The key here is to learn how to hold that contraction and still breathe. Right? So still be able to rotate your head side to side. So that's a global contraction. And it's a great thing to do if you have room. So not all people have room, but if you do have room in your workspace, doing it throughout the day, because you're turning on so many muscles that get turned off as a consequence of sitting, particularly the glutes and the core, which is so critical in terms of our movement and our functional mobility.
Chad and Brenda, I feel like if we get like a techno hip hop bass line playing in the background of this podcast, we might have like a pretty popular hip hop song here, because all this get on the floor, squeeze your glutes. We're halfway there, I feel, and we'd be healthier.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds great.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're, that's how it is in the clinic and the gym. Like we try to get people feeling their bodies, as much as they can.
Feel your body.
And start to wake up,
I like it. Let's do one more.
So one more, we'll do a chin retraction or a chin tuck. There's 2 ways to call it. So this is to fix that forward head. So remember we talked about most people, because their thoracic spines are so kyphotic and bent forward, their head's automatically going to be forward, and it's going to cause a lot of pain, but also a lot of lack of range of motion over time. And
headaches. This can be a really big issue for chronic headaches, especially that are of musculoskeletal origin.
Yeah,
so.
This is why people take the ibuprofen every day, right? So you want to sit up or stand up as tall as you can. This is another mobilization of the spine, so you always want to be as tall as you can. You're going to keep your chin parallel to the ground, and then go ahead and retract it back. You can think about taking your middle finger and your index finger and pushing on your chin back as far as you can. You're almost going to make a double chin. And you may even feel some snaps and some pops, and those are restrictions that you're breaking through in your neck. Then you're just going to go back to that starting position, and again, press back as far as you can. And the key here is to not really look up. Make sure your chin stays parallel to the ground to get that even movement that the neck is designed to have. So those three things right there will get you off to the right start for sure.
Chad and Brenda, I really think this can be empowering for people because so often exercise and physical movement is perceived as, I call it the chainsaw model of exercise, where it's just like, like let's just freaking punish your body, and it's almost this like whip yourself into shape. I mean, think of the analogies we use. They're violent and destructive. And what we're talking about here is really stuff that anyone can do anywhere, and it will change the way they feel and function 24/7. Is that fair?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of these exercises that we're utilizing, in these 2 to 4 minute intervals are things that we often talk, especially the spinal exercises. We call them spinal hygiene exercises because they're just things that you should be doing every day, just like brushing your teeth, combing your hair, just taking care of your body and taking care of your spine. You don't have to have, a 45-minute window or an hour window to go work out and keep your body healthy. In terms when we're talking about addressing the negative consequences of sitting, we're not saying stop working out. There's definitely benefits from working out, but there are, simple things that you can do to get your body feeling better and to negate the, negative effects of chronic sitting, which is something that a majority of people in this country do. So this is definitely important. This
is extremely helpful, and I can just tell that all of our listeners are probably craving, like, I hope to God there's going to be some pictures and something like that, because they're like, wait, are my elbows? What? Bend over to the front and touch your toes. So what is next for you guys? Tell us more about this book. Tell us more about where we can learn and get more pictures involving how to do this.
Yeah, so the Sitting Solution is essentially like our life's work. We've been working on it for the past 9 months. We're taking everything we've known from being in the clinic and really coaching people on these movements. And like Brenda mentioned, come up with over 48 movements. And we do have instructional videos and then demonstrations for everything. So basically what we're doing is we're taking these movements and then combining them and creating little workout routines that people can do throughout the day every 45 minutes. And we've created 5 different routines that meet the needs of every workspace scenario. So some people, may work in a cubicle where they don't have much room and they can't quite get on the floor. Some people may work in a private office and they have a wall and a little bit more space. Some people may work from home and they can do whatever the heck they want to do, and they can use things like resistance bands and kettlebells and foam rolls and trigger point balls. And then some people are traveling a lot and they're forced to sit for long periods of time. So they need to take a little extra time when they're done traveling to unglue a lot of the things that sitting for that long has done to them. So we try to think about every possible scenario and use all the best movements that we knew and we researched and came up with the Sitting Solution. So we're super excited about it, and we just can't wait to see it. Can't wait to share it with the world, really.
Yeah, and the book launches on October 13th. And you can check it out at sittingsolution.com.
This is incredibly exciting, and I think it'll really expand people's minds to so often movement. I mean, it's another class of movement. I feel that a lot of us have never, you guys are doctors of physical therapy. A lot of people have not been fortunate enough to ever work with a physical therapist, and their only perception of someone who is like a physical therapist is, say, Jillian Michaels. And I can tell you that is not what a physical therapist does. No, physical therapists are like freaking like neurobiologists, but for your spine. And I mean, this is hardcore science. This is breaking the body down into its most fundamental mechanical elements and really doing things that are transformative and not punitive and can be done anywhere. And I just think it's really exciting. I think so many people don't even realize that area of movement and that possibility is available to them.
Right.
Yeah. We talk about in our book as it being a blind spot in the health equation, because we really feel like it's, I think we're aware of diet and exercise and being important, sleep, things like that. But, especially with the current research coming out, like this is really becoming a huge health issue. Like you said, you were experiencing chronic pain and you were starting to take ibuprofen. And, we have people that have chronic pain issues and, they go down that that downward spiral of pain medications that cause side effects and surgeries and a lifetime of chronic pain. And it's very disabling and financially draining and emotionally draining. So, I mean, it really is a huge issue, especially now that we're talking about being linked to chronic disease conditions, heart disease, cancer. I mean, it's a big area that needs to be addressed. And I think that, it's really important that we bring awareness to it and we provide solutions.
Well, Chad and Brenda, this is certainly exciting, and I'm very, very excited to let our listeners know that they can go to sittingsolution.com to get more information. But even better, if you are signed up to get email updates from sanesolution.com. I know there's so many solutions, we're just overwhelmed with solutions.
Wow.
But if you haven't gone to sanesolution.com and signed up for email updates, please do so, because then you will be getting a free bonus guide that's going to help you get started right out of the gate with these types of movements. So that's going to be really exciting. But of course, if you don't want that, you can just go to sittingsolution.com. But Sitting Solution, Sane Solution, go to both the solutions and solve all of your problems all at once, right?
That's right. That's right.
I love it. Well, Chad and Brenda, this is absolutely fabulous. I so appreciate you sharing your time with us and putting all of the effort that you put into Sitting Solution into it, because I think it's really going to help a lot of people.
All right. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Well, listeners, I hope you enjoyed this show as much as I did. Again, our guests today are the delightful Chad and Brenda Walding. They are doctors of physical therapy and spine specialists and co-creators of Sitting Solution, which you can check out at sittingsolution.com, or you can just keep an eye on your inbox, because I will send you some free bonuses with regard to Sitting Solution, which is cool because it's been so personally helpful for me. So that is all good. And remember, this week and every week after, stay sane. Chat with you soon. Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like what you hear and you want more free goodness, be sure to hop over to sanesolution.com and grab your free plan. Again, that's sanesolution.com and grab your free plan.